Okay, welcome everybody to this session of the commercial properties webinar. Today here with the Latino Chamber of Commerce and a very special presenter from NAREP will be going through very good information on finishing the series that we have. This is the third webinar on a series of 3 of the webinars. And the first 2 have been very successful, has provided really good information, a little more basic with different topics. But I think our presenter today will also kind of do a recap of what we went through the first couple of times. So from the Latino Chamber of Commerce, we welcome you, and we hope that you get to learn a lot on today's session. So, and probably for next year, we will be planning some more sessions on specifically this very topic, which is real estate, commercial real estate, which I know is of a very significant impact for Latino businesses here in Minnesota. But with that, we're going to have this is going to be like about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour session. We've done this before, and for the people that have not been with us before, I want you to let you know that there is a chat icon at the bottom of your screen, and whenever you want to ask a question to our presenter today, you can click on that icon and you can just type the question that you want to ask. I will be monitoring the questions, and when our presenter is ready, we'll be sharing those questions so he can provide with the correct answer. With that, I'm just gonna present our obviously presenter today. His name is Luis Olvera, and he's a Minnesotan Minnesota residential and commercial real estate agent, and he has been active for over 15 years. He's also the director of the membership at the National Hispanic Real Estate Professionals Twin Cities. He's got over 18 years of experience in international business and contracts, negotiations, development of subsidiaries, exports, imports, and well, I can talk forever about what he's been doing. The other thing that he's done in the past is he also has been a past treasurer of the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, the NAREP of the Twin Cities chapter. So we have a really, really good presenter today with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And as the first couple of webinars, we're hoping that he would be able to share his knowledge and his expertise with the Latino Chamber of Commerce members and guests for today. And at the end of this session, we hope that we could answer most of your questions and get you prepared if you're thinking about buying or leasing or selling any kind of commercial property that you might own or you might want. So with that, I will let you keep going on this with Luis. Luis, it's your turn.
Thank you very much, Fabio, for such a nice introduction. I am very proud and happy to be able to participate one more time in this series of 3 webinars. And without going further, let's start, because we have a lot of ground to cover. And of course, this can be a webinar of 3 days, but I will try to summarize it in 50 minutes. So fasten your seat belts, guys and girls. Here we go. Let's start with a recap of the first 2 webinars. We started from the top, which is, the definition of real estate, which is any real property with its crops, the land, the improvements, or the brick and mortar. And the interesting thing about it is that it does not move. Therefore, mobile homes and food trucks are not considered commercial or either real estate. They are called chattel or personal property. Therefore, you do not need a realtor to sell or to buy. Another interesting thing about real estate is that the land that is owned by you, it is from the bottom or from the bottom of the center of the earth to the ground that you are stepping on. So anything and everything that you find in between the center of the earth and the 2 feet that you have is all yours. So if you have diamonds or gold, God forbids, it's yours. Kinds of real estate, as we all know, is residential and commercial. The residential is single family homes, townhomes, condos, duplex, triplex, quadruplex, stop. Everything else is commercial, starting from strip malls, multifamily, airports, big malls, hotels, gas stations, cemeteries, clubs, nightclubs, gyms, etc., movies, etc., etc., etc. The principal differences in residential commercial in the second installment, we saw the Lucky 13, but I have had the opportunity to participate in another seminars in which we have talked about 25, and we can go to even 35 or even 40 differences between residential and commercial. In my opinion, the few most important are the intent. When you buy a house or residential, is for enjoyment, for living, for having a piece of place and enjoy with the kids, cook on Sundays, watch the football, the World Cup on Sunday, etc. But in commercial, it is return on investment. How much money I'm going to put in, how much money I'm going to put out. The decisions basically, hopefully, are made with the brain. In residential, the majority of the decisions are made with the heart. Another very big, and we will touch a little further, this discussion is the inspections. In residential, we might have one inspection or sometimes no inspection or waived inspection. In the commercial, we have all kinds of inspections, roof inspection, environmental inspection, the general inspection, the basement inspection, the air conditioner inspection. We can have even locators, which are the people that locate precisely the pipelines of Excel and center point. You don't want to poke a line, they will be, might be a little angry at you. So we have that kind of situation. I have hired geologists. I have hired structural engineers and historical gurus, because it happens that the property that we went to buy was historical building. So we have to have an historical guy. So to make an inspection. So as you can see, the inspections are completely different universe in commercial than in residential. And another thing is that you have to go and make numbers, and more numbers. In commercial, in residential is how much I'm going to pay per month. And that is when you stop doing your numbers. The processes basically are the same. I mean, you have to be qualified or pre-qualified in residential. You have to be pre-qualified in commercial. The difference in the process is that in commercial, we normally, except some exceptions, is the letter of intent. You negotiate the letter of intent with all the subject to or contingencies. And in residential, you don't even think about the letter of intent. You go directly to the purchase agreement. In commercial, again, you negotiate the letter of intent, then you go to purchase agreement with more contingencies, and then you proceed accordingly. And finally, the timing. The timing in residential, it's 23 days if it's cash, 20 days if it's cash transaction, 60 days the norm or less. And in commercial, Guinness record is 3 months. I have had transactions that have taken 10, 12 months. And my broker has had a year and a half, 88 months or 19 months. So it is very, very complicated because of the permits and because of the inspections again, and all the contingencies that include in the transaction. As far as loans, well, in residential, you know, there is the FHA and the conventional, maybe the jumbo, and basically that's it. In commercial, you have an array on different programs, starting from the 5, 10, 15, which, as we talk in its opportunity, is 5 years, and you amortize all the loan, or it can be 5-10, in which at the end of the 5th year, you refinance the balance with the interest rate that is in that time for another 5 years. Those periods of time can have or either a balloon or you amortize completely the loan, and so on for 15. You can have also a 20-year fix, which is a very good thing, especially nowadays that interests are increasing every 6 or 5 months. And also you can have another variety, which basically is the FHA. The SBA. The SBA, they has 2 modalities, the 7A and the 504. And it really is in terms of requisites in paperwork. The SBA does not make loans, but they guarantee the loan, and it is 10% down. In the other types of loan in commercial, it could be 10%, as we spoke, or 15 or 20 or 25 in the case of multifamilies. Multifamilies normally is 20 to 25, more likely 25%, and they do not qualify for SBA. So if you want to buy a multifamily, be aware, it's 20 to 25%. And then obviously you have, as residential and commercial, the I-10 loans. The I-10, the interest rate in residential is a little higher. In some instances, the down payment is a little higher. In commercial, it is exactly the same. They do not request higher interest, and it might, depend upon your credit, a little bit of more down payment. But again, since you are in buying a multifamily with the team, it's going to be 20 to 25, which is the same as if you were buying with social. The main difference here is that in commercial, if you're going to buy the business, and I'm talking about the business itself, let's say in a restaurant, and you are not buying the real estate because the restaurant is in a strip mall and you're going to continue renting, then the bank does not, allows loans for a team. There are some banks that can loan you up to $100,000 for business without a collateral, which is a very nice thing. Depending upon your credit, you just sign and you have a line of credit of $100,000. There is another bank, which of course I cannot say names at this point, that can package the loan, meaning that if you need equipment, if you need a upgrade, if you need a new hood, etc., everything goes adding to the loan, and is one loan, which is a beautiful thing. Another thing that you have in commercial, sometimes in residential, is subsidies and special programs from the city. Just a sideline, we got a very, very nice grant to our buyer of $70,000. $70,000 grant is a very good thing. And also we got him, because of the city of Minneapolis, a 2% interest fix for 40 years. And if the buyer now the owner does not sell the property, the loan is forgiven, which is a beautiful thing. And the loan was up to 33% of the total amount of purchase. The purchase was 800,000, so he got this loan for 240,000. And if it's forgiven, that's a wonderful thing. And then also due diligence in commercial and residential. Residential, you do a very, very little, if not any due diligence. In commercial, in Spanish is las tres Fs, física, fiscal, y financiera. In English is fiscal, physical, and financial. You have to dig in the financials of the company or the multifamily that you're going to buy, the gas station or the cemetery or the mall, at least 3 years. And that you have to correlate with tax returns, which is the fiscal, because sometimes, excuse me, many times, the restaurants sell cash, and you have to be very, very aware of those kind of things. Liquor store as well. Some hotels, they forgot to invoice the client, etc. You have to be very, very conscious and aware that sometimes those things happen. So you have to tabulate and be aware that there are sales in cash that are not declared for tax purposes. And also you have to make a physical inspection yourself. Yourself meaning your realtor. You have to, in a multifamily situation, you have to go to the 27 departments. You have to make a list of each and all of what was lacking. And you have to start negotiating that in the apartment 25, there is a leak, and in apartment 17, the closet is falling apart. Those kind of things you have to negotiate, or you swallow because your realtor did not make a contingency of physical inspection. And then obviously the lease. We talk in our second installment a little bit about leases. It's very different than residential. In commercial, you have the triple net, and you have the gross and the gross reform. Normally, nowadays is a net 3N or triple net, in which the tenant pays basically everything. It is called the 3M because it is included the insurance and the taxes and the repairs of the property. You can negotiate, for instance, the CMA, which is common maintenance areas, like for instance, the hallways, the parking lot, the lightening in the parking lot, the lightening in the halls, the garden maintenance, etc. You can negotiate those things, but you have to have a good insurance, and at least is $1 million, $2 million per instance or per year. Again, you can negotiate those things. So with that, having said that, I think that we are ready to start this new venture of this seminar or webinar. Before we start, I really wanted to build or to develop this chart.
Luis, there are a couple of questions. I don't know if you want to go through the first couple of questions right now,
yeah.
or if you want to wait until the end to go through those.
It's okay, it's fine.
All right. I can read the questions, and I think you answered at least one of them. It says, do all type and price amounts take over 3 months to close? Any suggestions if you want to close earlier?
In commercial, it is really very difficult unless you pay cash. If it's a cash deal, yes, you could close in 3 months or less. But if it is not and a bank is involved, God forbids that the bank demands an environmental inspection. and we talk about that in the second seminar. The environmental that I have had experience took 4 months, and we went phase 1 and phase 2. And God forbids that if you need a mitigation system because the phase 2 was contaminated and the results were negative. That just itself takes 4 months. Then you have to have inspections. And believe me, the guys and girls that work in our wonderful government organism have a lot of work and they're very slow. So again, those inspections might take 3-4 months and there is no one inspection. There might be 2 or 3 inspections that you have to go through, and then the reinspection, and just itself, you are talking about 5-6 months already there. And you have been pre-approved, you have all the money down, you have everything set, but it is what you cannot control that will delay the closing.
Okay, very, very good. And then in a separate different question, which I think you went cover a little bit of these, and it's related to the IT holders. I know that you talked about, you know, the loans from banks, but the question is specifically for SBA. So the question is SBA lending to IT holders?
Okay, the answer, the short answer is no. SBA does not loans or warranties loans for IT number. So you have to go through the 10, 15, 20, or 25% down, depending upon your credit and depending upon the asset class. Whether it's a gas station or a multifamily, I commented, for everybody, social or IT is 20 to 25. But other than that, you could go to SBA with social, with IT, no SBA. So it basically depends upon your credit and the amount of the loan.
Okay, perfect, Luis. So those are the answers to those 2 questions. So you can continue with the rest of the material, my friend. Thank you.
Sure, of course. Well, and again, you know, I was developing this webinar and I said, well, you know, we live in a very dynamic world, to put it in positive words. We have a lot of factors that are influencing the fabric of the industry, and not only this one, but if you talk about health industry of a segment, if you talk about automotive, if you talk about construction, everything has been changed or turned around, and it is very, very different than pre-COVID. So therefore, what I did was to develop this graph or this chart in which it will tell you the price behavior, no? And it's been very interesting. If we take into consideration 2015 and say, okay, 2015 is 100 to say the base. Today, all property, the first row, has increased 35 points. However, in the past month, just the past month has decreased, this is prices, has decreased 7% and 8% in the past 12, which means an average, obviously. It's not 7 plus 8. An average from recent peak is 13% less. And then you go to the core sector, which basically, you know, is industry, multifamily, and health. And this is 134 and 16 in the last column, diminish in price. Multifamily, see how interesting, no? Multifamily increased 57%, my friends, in 7 years. In 7 years, 57%. However, in the last 12 months, taking into consideration the peak, has been decreasing between 14 and 17%. So if you had a $1 million property in commercial multifamily, diminished 14%, my friends, is 140,000. So that is a very, very interesting behavior. And the elements that have influenced this, we know all. Obviously, the inflation, which the last that I saw was 6.8%. But guess what? Last year, I went to the last year, year over year. Last year was 6%. So right now it's 6.8. And so all these increases in interest have really doesn't make a lot of difference. And the Federal Reserve has increased 4 times. The prime rate is at 7%. Yesterday I saw that. And it is really crazy. I mean, we have a robust economy. Nobody is even thinking about the recession, even though the economy has been contracting. The residential has been increasing inventory, which means less demand, and interest is increasing. That's another contributor. And of course, in commercial is happening the same. We are not exempt. The activity in commercial has been diminishing due to the interest in one side. Right now, a good interest rate in commercial is 7.5. Normal, 8%, in some cases, 8.5% for IT and for social. So major numbers, no? A $2 million with 20% down is 1.6. 1.6 at 8% is a little bit of interest that you're going to pay in the year, no? So therefore, you have to have a return on investment. If you are a buyer, if you are a seller, you are fishing because your price increase and you have a better situation. However, it is being affected by the inflation and all these other elements that we have been talking. And you can see, you know, industrial, mall, office, strip retails, that's strip malls, healthcare, all the hospitals, etc., clinics, and finally hotels has been the less affected, because whether or not we like that, there is tourism, and they have not been affected that much as the malls. You know that Amazon has been converting malls to senior families and to multifamilies. Talking about Amazon, they are going to lay out 10,000+ employees in the next weeks, and they are shedding or selling 10 million square feet of warehouses. So see, everybody is in an interesting situation. So continuing, I wanted to talk a little bit about multifamily and in general buildings, no? Whether it's office, hotels, but basically this is multifamilies. And this is very important to define what is A, B, or C, because that will determine price and how the price has been affected, is being affected, and it will continue being affected in the future. It's not the same to have a nice building in West End, 2007, 2010 built, with a guy in the front, underground garage, 2 swimming pools, tennis courts, etc., than Class C, which is, you know, the old part of St. Paul, which they don't have basically anything, and it's been 1920, and it hasn't been really remodeled that much. Just patch here and patch there, and everything in between. No, you go to Bloomington, you can go to San Luis Park, and you will find Class B. There are other classifications. For instance, CoStar defines in terms of stars. They go 5, 4, and 3. This is more real estate in general. And you can read the definitions. This is going to be recorded, as Fabio said. So that will be for your file and for your later review. In my presentations, I really don't like to read that much because this is there. and I better talk to you a little bit something different, and you can always come back and read what is the definitions all about. Continuing, if you're going to sell or you're going to buy, this is a two-way street thing. You want, and we're talking commercial, huh? You want to know what is your cap rate. That is the first formula that the gurus make. And the cap rate or capitalization rate or return on assets or return on investment is kind of the synonyms. And that will tell you how much is going to give you the profit in terms of your assets. Very simple formula. You don't have to be a mathematician to determine net operating income. We're going to talk a little bit about this, divided by purchase price. Simple. What is net operating income? Well, everything that is expense that goes into the operation of the multifamily or the office building, etc. Careful, because sometimes people want to manipulate this net operating income, including the capital expenses. For instance, new air conditioner. That does not count, that does not or should not be included in the net operating income, the same as taxes, but I'm not talking about the property taxes, but the federal taxes, federal income tax, that cannot be included in the NOI. You can include the repair cost, legal fees, insurance premiums, and those kind of expenses. And then once that you have that, and this is a very interesting formula, because the other day I was reading an article that says nobody wants to buy multifamilies because the cap rate in multifamily is less than 4%. Versus, guess what? The T-bills, which is treasury bills, long-term, 10 years, the T-bills are 4%. And you know what is the difference? The difference that you don't have to deal with Juanito, the apartment 3 that doesn't want to pay the rent, and Jane, apartment 7, that is shouting every night, and the leak on apartment 15. You just put your money and the treasury bills will direct deposit to your checkbook. So that is a big situation. 4% here, 4% there. But in one case you go to fish or fishing, and in the other case you have to deal with these kind of situations. So think about all the alternatives. Where are you going to put your money, especially nowadays? And what is going to be your cap rate, or again, the return on your assets. And if you want to dig in a little further, once that you have the capitalization rate, you want to determine what is your cash on cash. Obviously, this is what you, your investor, it will give you as a return on your down payment. Okay, so this is the definition. Annual pre-tax cash flow divided by invested equity, which basically is going to be your down payment. So how much money I have left, what that represents to the down payment that I gave. And the good one, obviously, has to be more than 4%. Okay, continuing. Again, seller disclosures in residential are basically two forms. The full seller disclosure, which the seller has to disclose in 11 pages, or the alternative, which is now 7 pages, or that's it. In commercial, it's a hide and seek game. The seller does not, very careful, does not, has to disclose a thing. So you buyer have to search everything, and that is why the 5-6 inspections that you have to make, structural, roof, environmental, if the bank so desires, etc., etc., etc. So basically, there is no comparison to residential. I mean, you can spend easily $10,000, $15,000 in inspections to determine if the asset is worth your investment. Be careful and talk to your realtor in advance to see what happens if the structural engineer determines that there is a fault in the basement and the building is going to fall down if you don't put $60,000 worth of basement repairs. Well, who's going to pay that? The buyer or the seller. So before doing anything, be very, very aware that is exactly the purpose of the letter of intent, you see. You put all the contingencies available to your imagination in the case if something happens. Okay, so inspections, inspections, and more inspections. And you seller and you buyer for commercial have a situation in terms of comps, because there are not two same hotels sometimes in 10 miles around, or two same gas stations, or two same hospitals, or two same malls, two same multifamily of 27 units with this kind of breakdown, 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom. It's very difficult sometimes to find comparables close by. So what you do then is to Google or talk to your realtor to make the average of the industry or industry averages. For instance, and I think I have it here. No. Well, for instance, the warehouse, it's an average of $90 to $110 a square foot. That's the average. So regardless of your pumps, if a warehouse is 40,000 square feet, you can say that a good price could be between $3.9 and $4 million. Easy peasy. Obviously, you do due diligence, the fiscal, and the financial, and you make all the contingencies, and then say, you know what, 3.9 is too much, my friend, 3.6. And then you make your cap rate, etc., and you will determine that either is 3.65 or thank you very much, next. That is how commercial behaves, and you do those kind of deals like that. Numbers, inspection, determination, and kiss goodbye. Or yes, let's continue to the next step. Again, that is why it takes so long time. To make the due diligence for the friend that was asking, just for the seller to give you the document, sometimes the seller takes a month to give you the documentation. Just there, plus 3 months, 4 months inspections, and another inspections of the cities, etc. There you go, 6, 7 months. And you have the cash, huh? Careful. So yeah, that's why commercial is so tedious or slow, but it is what it is, that's the name of the game. For the guys and girls that want to sell or are owners of commercial, there are several ways you can advertise. Of course, the MLS, because you are going to have a realtor. By the way, the realtor must be a supermarket, guys and girls. The realtor cannot be residential, and I'm going to tell you why. Because he or she does not have access to, well, excuse me, she or he doesn't have experience, I'm sorry for the term, in finding structural engineers, geologists. She or he doesn't have experience with environmental. So you have to have the proper doctor for your sickness. If you are sick of the stomach, you go to the specialist of the stomach. If you go commercial, you go to the specialist of commercial, which is a commercial realtor, because he will basically is going to be a member of MINCAR, which is going to be the official kind of listing of commercial. He's going to have access to CRE, CoStar Group maybe, LoopNet for sure, Craigslist, anybody can do it, local commercial realtors. There are association of realtors like our commercial. For instance, there is one case called MREE, M-R-E-E, and that is just for commercial investors. Very, very good, attractive association. There are more than 120 commercial realtors and investors in commercial that gets together every other week, I think. And wow, they do $7-10 million deals every time that they get together. Reonomy is another one that you have to pay per advertisement. By the way, all of them are to pay except the MLS because, you know, the realtors have the MLS fees every quarter and you can include anything and everything. They say with MinCard, you register once a year for $450 and you are ready to rock and roll. CRE is also, and CoStar, LoopNet, it's also a pay fee situation per year. And you can do, depending upon your plan. For instance, we in our group have up to 7 listings in LoopNet for free with our subscription. So these are the main, of course, yes, the Facebook and Twitter, but I don't recommend you do that in commercial. This is a little bit more towards industry guys and girls. Okay, ways to sell. This is a very interesting topic because I will tell you a little bit of the birds and bees. Cash is king, obviously, as our friend was asking, 3 months in, out, but careful with the inspections. I will definitely warn you to have some knowledge with your realtor, of course, of the environmental. I have had a tragedy experience with a person that bought something cash, and guess what? When she tried to open the business, she asked for a loan and the bank says, you know what? I need your environmental inspections. And it was, I lost track, contaminated the ground. So she couldn't open the business for months. And I'm talking months. So be careful, be careful, be careful. Not always the sooner is the better. You have to go through the ropes. You have to make all the inspections possible. And for that, make a letter of intent, negotiate with all the contingencies. I cannot stress enough those kind of things. We talk about the 5, 10, 15 SBA and down options in length. And then obviously the same as residential, we have a contract for deed. This is very advisable, especially for instance, when you are buying, and be aware if you are selling a restaurant, because the buyer is going to have, or is going to want the seller to have a little bit of a skin in the game after the fact. Why? Well, because of inspections. And I have had one experience, which I will tell you. This guy bought a restaurant, everything was fine, beautiful, dandy. And then the inspector came. And the inspector saw a repair, and the inspector says, hey, I see this repair, would you please give me the permit? And of course, guess what? What permit for what? So the inspector closed the restaurant. And the inspector demanded to pull permits and to repair what was very badly done. So, my dear friends, be careful, be careful, be careful. Inspections, inspections, inspections. If the owner had a skin in the game, guess what? You go to the owner and you can at least say, hey, you make a repair, you didn't pull permits, now we have to negotiate what's going to happen, you know? Contract for deed, it's a good thing. He will take second position, and he will have even if it's for 80,000, but he will have a skin in the game, and he will be, to a certain extent, liable or responsible for anything that might happen, God forbids. So you cover your back. That's a nice way to cover diplomatically your back, no? And then let's go to 1031 exchange. This is in the 1031 exchange is the IRS chapter cap article, whatever you want to call it, in which basically it says that you can defer the taxes. Instead of paying taxes at closing, as a traditional sale, you will defer it. And how are you going to defer the taxes? Well, there are two ways. Number one is what is called the forward 1031 exchange, in which in the moment that you wake up and think that you are going to sell your property, you tell your realtor, hey, I want to sell this asset with a 1031 exchange. Why? Because then the realtor will talk to the title company and will have a qualified intermediary. This person is going to be checking and reviewing, that is what is qualified intermediary, because he's going to be monitoring the rules of the situation of the taxes, not the deferral of the taxes. You have basically two rules in a forward exchange. 45 days after closing to find the property, same or equal or more value, no less value. And after 45 days, you have up to 180 days to close. I mean, you can have the property in 10 days and then 100 days to close. That's perfectly fine. But this is the maximum, okay? So you close, then 45 days, and then 180 days to close. What happened here is that you sell for 1 million, you bought it for 700,000. So then you basically, regardless of the closing cost, let's say that you have a 250,000 profit. Okay, so the 1 million that you sold has to buy at least a $1 million property or more. So all the money goes directly to the purchase of another property, and you pay 0 taxes. That's basically the principle. Okay, and there you go, and you can go and go and go through the rest of your life doing that. That is what is called the forward 1031 exchange. But somebody is going to say, oh, but the inventory is too small and I cannot find it. And I don't think that I have 35 days to, to find something nice that I like. Well, then you do what is called the reverse 1031 exchange, in which you go exactly reverse. First, you find the property, then you close the property, and then you sell your property. That is called the reverse. And you have to have an exchange accommodation title company for that. And also you have to have a qualified intermediary. This is a little bit more complex, but it's doable. People do it, especially when the inventory is so small. For instance, I've been looking for multifamilies for more than 6 months and I cannot find it. The sweet spot has been 7 to 20 units, and that is exactly what people like, what people can afford, and there are very, very, very few. So it's something to think about. That, of course, you talk to your realtor before doing anything, okay? Finally, let's go to the national and international investment. Basically, obviously, in the national, you have to abide for all the federal, state, local, municipal, city laws and regulations. I told you guys the experience of the tortilla guy. You have to go to the Department of Agriculture to obtain a permit because it was a wholesaler food handler. And if you don't get that permit, the guy cannot open the warehouse. So you have to be aware of all the intricacies of each of the situations that you are going to be facing in the national. So imagine if you go international and you want to invest in Spain or Hawaii. Hawaii is not, excuse me, Australia or France or even Mexico. First of all, you have the geopolitical, and I don't even want to go there in terms of digging in, but Ukraine is interesting, and Venezuela and Nicaragua and Russia and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not to talk about China. Then you have the foreign investment regulations. I do not know, you remember in Mexico, the foreign investment was extremely regulated. You could not own the property in Mexico, but for 25 years, and then you have to relinquish it. You couldn't have a property a certain distance from the shore. And those kind of foreign investment regulations or laws have to be in depth, analyzed with a lawyer, of course. And by the way, 1031 is a must. You have to have a lawyer for 1031 exchange. The same with foreign investment. You have to have a local lawyer who has experience in foreign investment. If you are going to buy a multifamily in Rome, believe me, it's going to be different than a multifamily in Anoka. Topography, needless to say, Chile is it's called the separate South American country because of the Andes. The Andes chain of mountains have separated these people from the rest of South America. So if you are going to invest in a factory in Chile, well, you have to be very aware how you are going to export to Uruguay or to Brazil because of the Andes, the Pyrenees in Spain, etc. You know, so the Rio Rim in Germany. You have to be very aware of topography. And with topography and investment laws goes the economics. You know that today, in general, Europe is freaking out because of gas and petroleum, because of the war in Ukraine, that Russia is not going to provide gas and petroleum. So that's a very interesting thing that is going to happen. Inflation in Germany is 10%. In Myanmar and Turkey is 75% inflation. So you have to dig into those kind of little things and make a lot of difference, no? Tax structure. Mexico, for instance, you know, has the Maquiladora program, which basically exempt taxes of these companies close to the border. Subsidies. We talk a little bit about subsidies here, but there are subsidies in Spain, for instance. There is a very, very big move for subsidies if you build factories that are in a need. And government programs, no? Especially in industrial parks, you have to locate industrial park, you have to see the infrastructure, electricity providers, etc., etc. Social is a very interesting thing. As Fabio told you, I had the great opportunity of my life to be in international for about 18 years. And the way that the Italians do business in comparison to the British or the French or the Mexicans, believe me, is completely different. No, I remember, I will not forget. I went out of the plane in Malpensa, Milan. From there, I drove to Lago di Lecco, which is north of Milan, half an hour. I arrived to the office of these guys. They were waiting to go to lunch. I sat down, we have the menu. I ordered my lunch. And the guy says, so, well, I am very happy that you make a good trip. By the way, I am looking for 25,000 products, and how much are going to be there? Are you going to give me a special discount? Excuse me, I haven't even breathed Italian air, and you are bombarding me with this kind of question. Give me a break, no? So yes, it's very, very interesting to learn how different cultures do business. In Mexico, I don't have to tell you, it's mañana, and you have to meet the family and the priest and the mayor and go to a soccer game, and then maybe let's talk about business, no? And then obviously the real religious, you know, is very respectful. Every religion has their own rules and regulations, and you have to abide by all of these situations, no? Women and children and elders and the praying in the morning and praying in the afternoon and the Ramadan, very respectful. But this is a different way to behave and to do social stuff. So all of these elements, you have to dig in big time in order for you to make a decision whether or not you're going to buy a hotel in Spain or a ice cream factory in Italy, no, a gelato. So that is something that is very, very, very intricate. And yes, I had 18 years experience, and it's passionate. It's really, really awesome to learn all these different cultures and ways to do business, no? So with that, I think that we have 56 minutes. I respect your time and I appreciate very much your presence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you learned something new, and I am very happy that you were here.
All right. Thank you, Luis. I know that we are really very close to the end, but we have a couple of minutes, and there are a couple of questions here that might be very interesting to go through, and maybe in a very, very brief way we can go through them. Luis, one of the questions is, do you know what percentage of the deals that are done in commercial property are done by Latinos here in Minnesota? Do we have any numbers that will, reflect, I mean, from all the deals that are happening every single day, how many of them are Latino businesses buying or selling or, leasing or doing any of the commercial property transactions?
You know something? What I say to my clients, I am not Google, but I will investigate this question. It's a very good question, really.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you please write the email of the guy or girl that had a question, I will be more than happy to search and to find whether it's in the MinCard or any association or my broker or some kind of source. And I will definitely will tell you the numbers in 24 hours.
Yes, and just to add a little bit, and we can figure those out. And the person making asking the question is Johan Gomez. We have his email. There you go. He just posted wrote his email there. I don't know if you can see your chat, Luis. Is right there on your chat. His email address. But the other thing that as part of the Latino Chamber, most of our members really are more of small businesses, restaurants, supermarkets. I mean, there's some professionals like lawyers and real estate agents and financial advisors. And, most of the Latino businesses in Minnesota are more related to operational activities, not so many in terms of investing, So with that, I would just assume, or I will predict, that not very many of all transactions made for commercial real estate here in Minnesota are done by Latinos. But if you can please investigate that one, Luis, that would be great.
Yes. Count on it, Johan. I will definitely. I wrote your email, and I will search, and I will tell you. At least I will tell you something.
There is another question that is from Jairo, and I'm lacking a little bit of the context here, but he's talking about, the question is, do you believe that has to do with rent control policies that are in the works here in Minneapolis and St. Paul? But I'm not sure what he's referring to. Maybe that was when you were talking about something else.
Multifamily.
Yes,
Multifamily.
For multifamily.
yes.
Okay.
My dear friend Jairo, I didn't say gas stations, be careful. Uh, you touch a bone, my friend. Yes, it is a big situation. Actually, I have two deals that went south or sour or didn't go through exactly because of the infamous rent control or which is very, very simple. I mean, you cannot increase the rent more than 3% per year. So if you are in that kind of binding or situation, you make your numbers, you make your projections, Jairo, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit your budget. It doesn't fit your expectations in terms of return on investment. Why? Because you cannot increase the rent more than 3% per year. So, man, so, and many, as I'm talking, many rents are undervalued or under market. So if it was not for rent control or rent situation, you go there, obviously you have to respect the contract, the lease. When it expires, you say to the guy, you have two soups, or either you pay $300-400, $500 more next month, or you are more than welcome to start looking for another place. Well, in this case, you cannot do that because it's only 3%. And 3% of, say, $1,500, I don't know your numbers, Jairo, but it's $45. And that is crazy.
Okay, yeah. And I don't know, Luis, how many of these rent control policies are temporary or if they're just, ongoing. I know for sure that with the pandemic, there were more of them in place and they were more rigorous. But that is having an impact in that.
Big time impact, Fabio, absolutely. Obviously, especially for the investors, no, landlords.
Mm-hmm.
For the tenants is a wonderful thing, The guy cannot increase me more than $45. Yay, I'm happy.
And then let's talk about just the last question because we are out of time already. But this is also an interesting question because it's regarding the cap rate. If you include financing in your commercial deal, let's say you finance 75% of the value, wouldn't that increase your total cap rate?
Let's see, here we are. That the 25% will be a raw material of your cash on cash. Remember, for the capitalization rate, you take the net operating income divided by the purchase price, total purchase price, regardless of the down payment. Remember the example that I was commenting? You bought the building multifamily in $1 million. Well, that is your purchase price, regardless of the fact that you gave 500,000 down.
All right.
That answers your question?
So basically, it really doesn't have any impact on the capitalization.
Correct.
Rate.
The down payment doesn't have any impact in the cap rate. That is
it's either your money or you financing with a bank. It doesn't really matter. Your capital rate is gonna be the same.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you finance with your friend of the corner, widow, or a bank.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Financing is financing,
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'm sorry, everybody, but this has been a very interesting conversation. I know that there's so many other things that we can keep talking for a long time. But I promise you that next year we're gonna plan and we're going to bring a program with maybe a little more with topics that are really more in depth in terms of all these real commercial real estate activities. And I hope that Luis can help us out with that too. So for now, thank you very much for participating and stay in tune with the Latino Chamber of Commerce for more to come, possibly next year about this very significant, important topic, the commercial real estate. Thank you so much for being with us, Luis. Thank you for helping us out with this, and well, we'll be in touch, and we'll do a little bit more next year.
Thank you very much to all. Fabio, again, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, you're welcome, and have a good evening.
Same to you all.
Okay, bye.
Bye.